Hello everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this hinge and this part that goes inside it. So let's get started by bringing in our image plane, right? As always, just going to create a plane. I'm going to set the subdivision to be at 1 because I don't want to see those lines in the plane. I'm gonna hit R to scale everything, and to be at the same page with me, make sure that you rotate this image plane in such a way that you see the image plane in the front orthographic view. If you hit a spacebar once on your keyboard and look at this here that says front, this is your front camera. So I'm gonna hit E to rotate it. I'm going to rotate it in such a way that I can see it here. Then I'm going to go in and put 90, so it is exactly at 90 degrees. Just going to push it away and assign a new material to it, Lambert. I'm going to go in and bring in my image file. Okay, and it's not there because I'm not in the shaded and textured preview. I'm gonna hit 6 on my keyboard so that the image appears. Now I'm ready to go. I'm just gonna assign this image plane to a new layer, set it to be a reference so I'm not able to click on it from the viewport. Okay. So, to get to this shape, I'm gonna start with this part, okay? I can see that I can get to it by creating a pipe, and pipe is basically a cylinder with a hole in the middle, okay? So I'm gonna go in and create a pipe. So the pipe is not, the pipe shortcut is not in the poly modeling shelf, so I'm gonna go into the menu to create it. And all the polygons are in the, if you're in the modeling menu set, you can click on create and then go to polygon primitives and then go to pipe, right? So I'm just gonna click on it. Again, the subdivisions, I'm gonna set it to be at 8 would be fine for me. I can always go back and smooth it out, but for the beginning I'm not gonna work with so many subdivisions, right? I don't care if it's bulky right now, I can always come in and smooth that out at the final stage of my 3D modeling. Okay, so if I click on this object and go to my channel box, if your channel box is not showing up, it's here, right? Just gonna click on this and set the subdivision axis to be 8. Okay, so the next step for me would be to rotate it, right? So I'm just gonna hit E to rotate this 90 degrees. Once I rotated it, I'm gonna go into my channel box and set the rotation to be at exactly 90 degrees. Okay. So this is this part, right? I want to get like some kind of a bevel for these faces. I'm not going to use the bevel tool. I'm going to use Extrude to create like the bevel, okay? I'm going to go to face mode and select all these faces that are around here. Check my object so no other faces are selected. I don't want to get double extrusions, right? And once I selected them, I'm going to extrude them. I'm going to do shift, right click, extrude face. And this is the manipulator for extrusion, okay? So I'm going to grab this arrow to push them aside from the faces that I just extruded. And you can see wherever you do extrude, you get this extra edge loop, okay? So as we talked about this in the class, one of the ways to get extra geometry is by extruding, right? So while I'm still in the extrude mode, I'm gonna use this cube to scale these faces as well based on their own center, the center of each one of them, okay? So to use the scale extrude tool, I'm going to click on any of these cubes that are showing here at the tip of these arrows. I'm going to click on any of them once, just click once. As you do that, you can see that the center turns into a cube, right? And this means that, okay, you're in the scale mode. But I'm not going to scale them by grabbing this because I only want to scale them in this plane, right? I can see here that it is a YZ plane, right? So I'm going to use this square instead of grabbing it from the middle or any of them because I want it to be scaled in this plane. I'm going to grab this square, I'm going to click on it and drag, okay? So that looks good. I'm going to push them a little bit to the side, and that looks good. Okay. So now I have this shape, right? Looks good. Okay. So I want to get to this part, right? So you might think that it's best if you just select these faces and just push them down to get to this shape, right? Maybe not this one, but like, or maybe like this, right? But let's see. When we do 3D modeling, it's good to think ahead and preserve the edge loops where you think you might need them later. Like if I create this shape by doing this, I kind of ruin the nice edge loop that I have around this hole, right? This is gonna preserve, like if I do insert edge loop tool here, when I have this kind of edge flow, it's gonna be creating a nice edge loop around here in the middle of these two edge loops that I already have. But if I do this, if I want to go back in and, for example, refine these edges that I have around this hole, it's going to be hard, right? Because the other edge is right on the bottom and it's not like parallel to this other edge that goes around it, right? Just as a general rule, we try not to only make the objects look like what we want, we also pay attention to the edge flow, right? So because we want to preserve these edges, we do extrude, because we know whenever we extrude, the edges are going to be staying at place and we're going to get extra geometry. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to select these faces. I'm going to look around my model, so no extra faces are selected. That looks good. And now I'm going to do shift right click for extrude face. As you can see, the extrude tool manipulator always shows up like perpendicular to the faces that you selected. In this case, I don't want that, right? I don't want to do this. That's why while these faces are selected and I have extruded them, I'm going to hit W to go to the move tool and just pull everything down, right? As you can see here, I preserved the edge flow around this hole that I have, right? And if I later want to go back in and insert edge loops and refine these edges, it's going to be easy to do, right? Okay, so now one of the ways that you can make this shape flat, I really like this technique, you can use a scale, right? So you have all these faces selected, you can hit R on your keyboard, and if you scale only in the Y direction, like, you know, Y is here, right? This is up. Up in Maya is Y. Up and down actually, but yeah. The positive side of Y is up, okay? So if I just scale everything in the Y direction, it gets flat. Isn't it nice? I like this technique. So it's flat, okay. I'm not pushing this down and then like think about, okay, I want to create this edge loop here, because look what happens if I want to create the like edge loop now. So I say shift right click, insert edge loop tool, and I click on this, you can see that's what I'm talking about. When you use insert edge loop tool, it's going to look to the both side of the edge that you want to create. Like this one is shaped like this one, and this one is flat, so insert edge loop tool is going to do this to kind of, that is an edge loop that is in between these two. Okay, of course you can always go in and double click on this edge, and using the same technique that we did, like by hitting R, scale in the Y direction, make it flat, but I'm considering this an extra step, right? So let's do Control Z to go back. Okay, so here. So I look at these faces and I'm like, okay, I know I want an extra geometry here to connect the two parts. So once I made them flat, I'm gonna do Extrude to preserve this edge loop here, right? So I'm gonna do shift right click, Extrude face. And this time, because all the faces were flat, I can use the manipulator that Extrude tool gives me because it's pointing right down. That's exactly what I want. I'm gonna push everything down, and you can see because I did Extrude, I preserved this edge loop, right? Okay, so everything looks good, and I almost have half of this shape. Now I wanna duplicate it to get to the other part of it, right? So first I'm gonna delete history on this one because Maya can go crazy, we all know that. So for creating this shape on the other side, if you hit Control D, you can see that you're getting a duplicate of this shape, right? But we want this bevel thing to be on the outer side of this shape. So if I click on this wireframe unshaded icon here, if you hold your mouse over it, it says wireframe unshaded. If I click on it, you can see the edge flip, right? So this bevel part should be on the outside, but if I do Control D for duplicate, it's just giving me the exact same thing as this object, okay? So to do to get to the mirror of this object, you can do it in a couple of ways. Let's use this as part for introducing you to the duplicate special tool. Okay, so my object is here and I deleted history on it. I'm gonna go to edit, and right under duplicate, which is Control D, you can see duplicate special. Don't click on it, go to the options for it. Okay, if you go to the options for it, and I'm just gonna reset this tool so your setting matches mine. So yeah, you go ahead and do that because maybe somebody else used this Maya before and the setting is changed. So just go to edit and reset setting. Okay, so if I use duplicate special the way that it is by default, like right when I open it, instead of duplicate special, click on it, I'm gonna hit apply to just have this window open. I'm gonna hit apply, and you can see it does the exact same thing as if I duplicated it. Okay, and that's not what I want. So to get to the mirrored version of the duplication, the way to do it in Maya, one of the ways, is to put a scale -1 for the object and in the axis that you want it to be mirrored, right? So if you started with me and you have your object facing this way, like you see your image plane in the front view, your setting should match mine. Okay, I've seen cases that it is different, but yeah, let's hope that yours is not one of those. So when I want to duplicate it, if I put a scale -1 for x-axis, because this is the axis that I want it to be mirrored on, right? And hit apply. Okay, I didn't have the object selected. I should have the object selected so that Maya knows which object I want to duplicate. So I select the object, put -1 for scale x. This is x, y, z. Okay, so for scale x, I will put -1 and hit apply. Okay, see what I'm. Yeah, okay. So it wasn't supposed to do this. Yeah, okay. So it is not a scale. It is not the x-axis. It is the y-axis actually. For me, it was doing it with the y-axis. For other people, did it with the x-axis. So just try them all until you get to the result that you want, right? So scale -1 for the y-axis, because that's like the axis that you want to be mirrored based off of the y-axis, right? And hit apply. Oops, sorry, select the object, hit apply. And now you get this duplicate that is mirrored based on the y-axis. Okay, if you're confused about which axis is which, just try them all, right? Don't worry, you can always go back. So now I have these two objects, right? And I'm gonna put this one at exactly like 1.5 here, and this one at -1.5. So they're at the same distance from the center of the grid, right? So now I'm gonna select them both and delete history on them, so they're ready for getting to this shape, right? Let's pause the video here, and I'm gonna do the rest in the next video because it's getting too long. So stay tuned for part 2 of this tutorial.